My name is Wanda Locke, and I am an artist who is currently living in Lake Country, and I am a painter, drawer, and I like to work 3D, which is fairly new to my practice at the moment. If you were to come to visit me in my studio today, say we could just drop by and say hi, when you walk into my studio, there are more than one project happening at a time. So you will see, currently I'm still working on the large series that you see in the gallery right now. So painting number 4 is up on the wall. There is nothing on the canvas yet, it's still blank, so we're still thinking about all that. I draw pretty much every day, so you will come into the studio and on my drawing table there'll be papers piled up and whatnot. And these drawings are just thoughts and ideas. They're not formal pieces of art, they're not meant for public consumption, they're just me working through my everyday thoughts. You'll also find a series of small canvases. These canvases are where I sort of figure out composition, color, and ideas before I go to the larger scale pieces. And what you will also find amongst everything are collectibles that I have been collecting over the last 4 or 5 years. And they are living in little vignettes throughout the studio. Some of them are sitting on a pedestal, some of them are on my drawing table, some of them are on the floor, and they are spread sporadically all through the studio space. So when COVID hit, I had an idea for 2020, 2022 to start doing a body of work that was more out and about. And because of COVID, we were all found ourselves in our spaces. So I went to the still life for a couple of years to just to paint every day, but to have an idea to get back to the basics. So I started working with still lifes, and at the beginning it was flowers from my garden and various compositions that way. But another thing I started doing too was visiting thrift stores. It was an easy space to go into. They weren't overridden with people. You could go there safely and have a look around. And I started noticing people's collections in thrift stores. And I really got interested in the idea of people who had spent part of their lifetime collecting whatever it was. And in most cases, I was looking at figurines and such. And I started collecting people's collections. And it was very easy to do. You know, you go into a thrift store, especially the smaller ones where you could pick up a figurine for 25 cents, 50 cents. And so I started collecting people's collections and bringing them into the studio and using them in various vignettes and started painting those. So that was the beginning of the pieces that you see here today in the Kelowna Art Gallery. And yes, so over a 2-year period, you start collecting these objects. These objects start having conversations with each other. These objects start showing up in paintings that I was doing and drawings as well. And they just started to grow into their own little collections and conversations and vignettes. So that's how that started. So the paintings are about time and space. So they are locations. All 3 of the paintings in this exhibition are locations that I have visited over the past few years. So behind me, we have Harrison Hot Springs. Beside me, we have the big cemetery in Paris. And then on the last one there, we have a picture I took when I was standing on the Hoover Dam in Nevada, looking down the Colorado River. And these photographs were taken intentionally. I always like the playing with the idea of I guess it's kind of a trope that you see in paintings where you have a path meandering through the landscape, or it's a river, or it's a creek, or whatnot. And I think it's kind of funny and interesting. So I purposely took these photographs with that in mind. So behind me we have the pathway leading down the old bathhouse at Harrison Hot Springs. We have a little pathway through the cemetery, and then we have the Colorado River through the landscape and the mountains in Nevada there. So those were the starting points of these compositions. And I brought into these paintings objects from my studio as well, because it's great to to work from a painting, but it's also great to work from real life. And that's how I prefer to work. The photograph is just a jumping off point, but it's nice to have objects in your space as well. And they just kind of invited themselves into the compositions. When you're in your studio every day and you're amongst all these objects with a canvas on the wall, they kind of start seeping into your compositions as well. And that was just a natural occurrence for these paintings and these bell jars that you see here.